Good evening, afternoon, later afternoon. Can you hear me?
Good.
I think
Yes,
some of us can't hear me.
yes. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yo te escucho.
Okay.
Okay. You.
I'm like, it's 4:30. It's not really evening.
I know. Is it afternoon or evening? It's funny you say that because when I remind people, is it this afternoon's meeting or this evening's meeting? And I go back and forth.
Hi, everybody.
Right
Hello.
there.
Hello.
I'm having issues with my headphones, so I try.
I can hear you now.
You could? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Luckily, it's quiet over there. So today,
Hello, Chairwoman Hackenhall.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you.
Good afternoon.
Likewise.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Board Member Francois Dersto Ledger. I don't see you. I never could like see everyone on my screen.
No, my camera is off.
Oh, that's what it is. Never
Yeah.
mind. Got
But
it.
I'm not driving. That's a good thing.
You're in Hartford.
Usually I'm on the road.
Yeah, you might have it set up in the settings that if you're not on camera, you're automatically hidden.
Mm-hmm.
So we are a little early, even though we are already streaming on YouTube. We'll give obviously a few minutes for board members to get here, and then Chairwoman Hackenhall will let you know when we can open it up. We just have those two contracts, which I will screen share now. And to confirm, Dr. Ratley, I will be sharing the slideshow. I think she stepped away. Oh, no, there you are.
I'm right here. We were going to give the overview, and then if the slide is needed, okay, but it's really captured in the summary that we submitted. We just did it always just to make sure we were prepared either way, but the information is pretty much duplicative, so.
Okay.
And for context, Christina, that's something that we should we'll think through with our chair and board members as to like how much information and the mode of sharing the information. I know we've gone back, do PowerPoint, no PowerPoint,
Mhm.
just the one pager. So
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Stephen. Good to see you.
Hi, Jen, you as well. Hello, everybody.
there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I will get to texting. See where the rest of the board members are. Okay. Hello, Mr. Walker, and I have Mr. Mills and Mr. Wilson will be joining shortly, or now.
Dina, do you think we're good to get started?
Yes,
Okay,
we are here.
all right. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank Superintendent and your staff and members of the public, board members. Glad to see everybody today and thank you for listening at home. Today before you, we have two contracts that will be presented, discussed tonight, and then voted on at our meeting on Tuesday, a week from today. So with that, I will turn it over to the first presenter.
And that would be the superintendent.
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank you.
Good evening. And thank you everyone for joining us. Before I kick it over to the team, just some logistics because we have our board members here with us that are, some of them are new. And so if you, when you speak, can you just, of course, introduce yourself, but also your title so that we can begin to get familiar with each other. And so the first item here is our continuation of our Hartford Performs contract. Before I turn it over to the team, just to give you a quick background, Hartford Perform has been a longstanding partner since 2009, and it is aimed at leveraging the arts as a means to enhance student achievement and outcomes across our schools, serving as a conduit, if you will, for collaboration. They really bring in our community's rich cultural resources, and they align it to our strategic priorities. Over the years, there has been an expansion in terms of their not just reach, but also the impact, always making sure that it is in alignment with our strategic priorities and also a focus on equity. And so with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Ratley and Tracy Avicoli to walk us through some of the details. Team?
Yes, absolutely. I think that it may be most helpful to utilize the deck at this point. Christina, please. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Torres Rodriguez has given us an overview of this continuation of work, which we're seeking approval to do. We also have on the line, if there are questions, for Ree Poirier-Campbell, who is the Executive Director. As our superintendent mentioned, this has been a long-standing partnership that has evolved over time, so grown with us in terms of our district priorities and scope. At this point in time, I will, though, turn it over to Tracy Avicoli, who currently serves as our Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning. She was previously our Director of Art and Wellness. So Tracy, if you will, please give a little more insight into the work that goes into our partnership with Hartford Performs.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Ratley. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the new board members. My name is Tracy Avicoli. As Dr. Ratley said, I'm currently the new director of secondary teaching and learning, and I have been working with Hartford Performs for about 8 years. So I'm very excited for this contract continuation as they have been an integral partner to us. Christina, you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the mission of Hartford Performs is to work with school systems, particularly Hartford Public Schools, to really infuse and integrate arts and cultural experience into teaching and learning in ways that enrich the student experience and improve outcomes across the curriculum. So what Hartford Performs does, for folks that are new on the call and new to Hartford Performs, is they take all of the great arts and cultural resources and venues and local teaching artists, and they aggregate it all for specifically just for Hartford Public Schools, so that we can reinforce not just artistic skills and knowledge, but also to enhance what is happening in the core curriculum in their classrooms. And so they have been a partner since 2009, which came out of a local task force called On the State of the Arts in Hartford Public Schools and around the city. There was input from our Board of Ed, principals, teachers, parents, multiple stakeholders in the community. And the recommendation was to design a community partnership that ensures that all students in grades pre-K through 8 right now have equal access to quality arts education in grade level classrooms, in addition to, not instead of, certified arts instructors as well. And so in 2010, some best practices review happened from the team and the task force, and some pilot testing initially started. And then in 2010-11, that school year, they began serving schools. So for about 14 solid years, Hartford Performs has really been with us lockstep to make sure that what we are doing in our district, they are also continuing through their organization. In our current context, I will say through post-COVID, our access to quality arts programming has been much more challenging, as has other subject areas as well. And so Hartford Performs has not skipped a beat. They have helped us to think differently about how to create more equitable access for our schools in ways that look a little bit differently than what they had previously. So we can continue to the next slide. So Hartford Performs fits in with our strategic plan by infusing that culturally responsive curriculum and instruction, and also having that deep partnership with families in the community to support academic success and healthy development of our students. Next slide. Just some data so that you can get a sense of all of the good work that has happened in this past year. So for all of our schools receive an allocated amount of funding through both this contract and the hard work that Hartford Performs does to receive other dollars as well that also directly go to Hartford Public Schools. So while our contract is for $314,000, Hartford Performs has an operating budget of that's about a third of their operating budget. And so the rest of the resources are really directly put into our programming in our schools and our programs for students. And so we are getting more bang for our buck, if you will say, especially because Hartford Performs mostly serves just our district. So you'll see that there were over 3,000 hours of programming delivered to Hartford Public Schools just in the last school year. 92% of grade levels received at least 2 programs. Every grade level is guaranteed 1. So that means that every student is guaranteed at least 1 quality arts programming. Because of our work with Hartford Performs and what they've done, most of our schools and our students do receive more than 1 program a year. The different disbursement of subject areas and how those were allocated last year and chosen, the majority of our programming was spread through the English ELA department and some connections with social studies. But again, there are programs that align with math and science as well. Some of the student survey responses, we like to get feedback from our students that they serve, that we serve, is that they've learned a new skill, they learned a new talent, they put their own creativity into their projects, and that they had say in what they created. And also what they were doing was meaningful to them. So this speaks to that engagement part, and really getting to what our kids want to do in school. This was specifically for our, I believe, our middle school grades. And lastly is our educator survey responses. We do have a little chart on the top that just notes teachers' observations about the program's effect on attendance and what they perceive their effect on attendance might be. And you'll see that about 54%, about over half, perceived that moderate to major effect on programming attendance. Attendance of students when they had Harper Performs programming that day. And then lastly, teachers reporting that the programming engaged more students, met learning goals for the grade level, was age appropriate, met their expectations, and was culturally relevant, all over 90%. And so there's a lot of interest and engagement from both our students and our staff. Next slide. So some of what the service delivery, what will look like for next school year, along with the traditional programming, what we call traditional programming, that now Harper Performs is going to be aligning all of their program catalog to how teachers can use Harper Performs programming to support our new literacy curriculum, Wit and Wisdom, and also the K-5 math curriculum, Eureka Squared. And so because those two programs are very much an integrated experience for students that do have arts components, we want to utilize our partners to make the learning more engaging both for our staff and for our students. So Harper Performs has already taken the lead on reorganizing their catalog so that they can align to the units in Wit and Wisdom, and really boost that core instruction in Tier 1 for our kids next year. Along with that, we are recognizing the need for more longer-term teaching residencies in our elementary schools. Again, not to replace certified teaching instructors, but to provide experiences for our students where we aren't able to provide those experiences for students. So for instance, at Sand or Naylor School this year, we had some pilot programs where we had local teaching artists come in to work with our certified teachers that we have on staff and our students to give them a program, 5-week program, where they are experiencing visual art because they don't have an art teacher this year, where they are experiencing music because they don't have a music teacher this year. And now we are figuring out other ways to be creative so that we can then provide that certified teacher for them in following years once we get that engagement up and that excitement about the learning opportunity again. So longer-term teaching residencies will happen, more variability and I would say choice for schools to be able to use their own dollars in a way that is unique to their school's needs. So for instance, if a school is really focused on ramping up the cultural identity of their school, they might say, target that as a specific need and say, we really want to have more family engagement events that use the arts to bring cultural excitement and families into our school community. And so there's more flexibility in terms of the way that a principal, a school leader, or a school leadership team can use their dollars to really benefit their strategic plan and to make it more aligned to the actual school's needs. And lastly, we're going to provide some additional support because of the new, more equitable formula for program selection in assisting schools with selecting and scheduling those programs aligned to their key priorities. So while we are aligning just the programs, we also wanted to support the schools so that when they're making choices, they can make choices that best align with what they actually want. Next. Questions?
Thanks, Tracy, for that presentation. I appreciate it. I will open it up to my board colleagues for any questions, and it looks like Francoise has her hand up.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for the presentation. I have a question regarding the pretty much the deliverables. Now, for the schools that who will not who don't have any who don't have an art teacher, I understand that this won't be replacing the art program. However, will this be offered to all of the students, available for all of the students? Because my concern is, what about students who have paras, who have one-to-one?
Mhm.
How is that going to work?
Yeah, so Harvard Performs programming is open to all students. All students have access to Harvard Performs, whether or not they have come to us with special needs or not. So Harvard Performs has provided programming specifically for students that are in both regular mainstream classrooms and also self-contained classrooms. And so that does not preclude a student from participating or having access to any of the programming. No.
Okay, but it will be available to all of the students in the school.
Correct. The part that is less, not, I don't want to say accessible, but that we might not be able to provide the same program for all students are the residency programs. So while a school might choose to have a long-term residency, it isn't guaranteed that the entire school would be able to partake in the residency. However, every student will be able to have a Harvard Performs program experience. So while they might not have that one, they would be able to have another one. That is really just because of the hours of, how the manpower is really what it is and how many sections of classes that the residency can provide for. But that is something that we're looking at.
Okay, thank you. And a follow-up question. I understand that you serviced students for a number of hours. Is there a minimum requirement or a set number of hours that the services are supposed to be provided, or is it just a contract?
So all of our schools have to receive programming. All of our K-8 or anyone in pre-K through 8th grade, mostly, we receives access to Harvard Performs programming. The hour amount is not there isn't a minimum hour amount. Every student receives about $20 per student of allocated funding to the school. So based on a school's enrollment, if there's 100 kids in the school and there's $20 per student, right? So then that's the school's allocated budget. And then each grade level selects programming for their grade level. And so the shorter programs are about 45 minutes, right? So I think that if you are looking for an exact minimum number, the minimum a student would get would probably be a 45-minute program, but I don't even think that would be possible, right, Ree? Like one 45-minute program for the year is pretty low. I don't think we've ever seen something that low.
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Brody?
Thank you for the presentation and good afternoon, everyone. So I know each year we say that Harvard Performs does not replace, but actually it is beginning to feel like that year after year that it's replacing art and music teachers. And let me explain what it does, what it feels like. So if you're the school that has your music and your art teacher, on top of that, you have Harvard Performs. So what it does is it makes, to me, it equity of having haves and have-nots as far as who has music and art teachers and who don't. It makes that gap even bigger because now you have your teachers and you have Harvard Performs, in the schools that don't, Hartford performs.
Mhm.
So I don't know,
Mhm.
you have to rethink how you're a school, you have an art and a music teacher. Maybe we need to have Hartford performs until we fix this art and music teacher thing, which I
Yep.
think at some point really needs to be a priority.
Mhm.
We need to have Hartford performs focus on those schools who do not, instead of making a school that feel privileged even further. Like
Yeah.
we have to figure that out, because I rather my kid not have Hartford performs times a year school that doesn't have a art and music have it more.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something we need to really rethink about, because it at the end of the day is really not fair. It's wonderful though, because
Yep.
I get the report of what Harper Performs was at our school, and it was absolutely wonderful. I think that needs to happen more at the schools that don't have the art and music teachers, while we still focus on
Yeah.
figuring out urban school district, and art and music is absolutely everything. We have to figure this thing out with we talk about it year after year after year.
Can I jump in, Ms. Brody? Because I agree with you. I will say that I think that what your point is actually very well taken, and I appreciate it. And I think that what I'm hearing is that you also believe in moving to a more equitable formula than having that equal formula, right? Like kind of what we've had. And so this step right now, and having the schools be able to for the example that you had, if a school does have, say, 3 certified arts teachers, or their unified arts staff is full, and they have Harper Performs, we're calling that an arts ecosystem. So how does your school's arts ecosystem look? It might be really strong in certified arts teachers, but maybe you need some more help with your arts integration strategies now, and with your classroom teachers. So then Hartford Performs can come in to work at a different lever for that school, where at another school that doesn't have as many certified teachers would really be working on filling in some programming gaps for them. So that's exactly what you're talking about, is exactly sort of where our mind is too, where we've been doing some of this reimagining work to identify for schools, where are those equity gaps that, like just what you said, schools that have the staffing, but maybe they want to work in a different area to build up family engagement, or maybe they want to work with their classroom teachers to build professional learning through wit and wisdom, and be really focused on that. When another school is doing something different. And so it's really using Hartford Performs to best serve each school. And I hear what you're saying about the equity piece. So I appreciate that very much.
Councilwoman Brody, did you have any other follow-ups? No, okay, thank you. Councilmember Walker. Did we
Pardon me.
lose?
Thank you, Chair. Yes.
Oh, there
yes,
you are. Sorry.
Yes. His lips are moving. So I have 2, 3 quick questions. One is you brought up wit and wisdom, and I know it seems to be one of our key instructional tools. So I'm just going to ask you for a data request to kind of push me some information about the wit and wisdom program, and how that works, so I can get a little bit better educated about that, and maybe so I can get a better idea of how this integration works.
Sure.
2, just in terms of the numbers piece, maybe just walk slightly through what's presented here. Seemingly is you have this notion that 31 schools will each get, let's say, approximately $10,000 to $11,000 each. Is that how you're imagining this program being implemented?
That's how it's operated for almost 15 years. It's about $20 a student per your student enrollment. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so based on what you're saying, how many programs does that kind of provide? Is that like a program per school, or just give me a little background on how that money gets stretched, because you talked about stretching the dollars. So I just want to understand how that works.
Thanks, Mr. Walker. So Ree, I would appreciate, I know I have a school summary, but I might not have it in front of me. So at the end of the school year, the school will receive a printout of all the programming that their school received with the dollar amounts attached to them. So that, and we've been intentionally providing this to the school leaders the past 2 years so that they can see there's dollars attached to every single program. And if there's something that's canceled and it can't be replaced, that's money left on the table. So we're trying to make as transparent as possible also that there's value, there's monetary value attached to all of these programs in these minutes as well. I believe like a few of the programs, I mean, there's like 20 programs on some of these school reports, right, Ree?
Yeah, so last year of our traditional programs, we provided, I think it was 549 programs across the 31 schools that we serve, plus the other programs that we did, the longer term residencies, the cultural assemblies, the family engagement events, that type of thing. But every student got at least one program. 90-something% got 2 or more, and then a significant number got 3 or more during the school year.
Okay, so I'm going to take from that there's, in essence, a kind of menu that administrators can look at. And so here's programs, here's the costs, and you pick and work with the teachers. So my last question is then about this, the long-term or the artists in residence, because I was somewhat in bewilderment as to how that money covers that. And so that's what I was going to ask last. How does the artists in residence program work at that price point?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that actually goes to what Ms. Brody was talking about and how we're kind of trying to make it a little more flexible, because that long-term residency is more costly because you have somebody in there for a long period of time. And, you know, there's also materials that Hartford Performs is providing. They're providing the instructional materials, they're providing the person, the lesson, and we provide the other adult support, right? So that they can have that in their classroom. It's when a school if a school eats up their funding through the residency because they chose the residency program, we have guaranteed that the other class grade levels need to receive at least 1 grade level program. So while before they were getting 2 grade level programs, now they would receive 1. However, there is another chunk of money that's going towards a residency program in your school. So it is a give and take, but we are not leaving students without a program. So that was a non-negotiable. And I will say that was a Hartford Performs non-negotiable, that we will not sign this unless we guarantee that all students have at least 1 program.
Okay, thank
you. Board Member Dearstelle Ledger.
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to kind of, go back to the point of these the individuals who are servicing the students. They're not certified classroom teachers, correct?
Correct.
And so this is a form of enrichment, if you will, with regards to the arts and music, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm just hoping that this doesn't for the classrooms or the schools that don't have an art teacher or a music teacher, I'm just hoping it doesn't replace it. It's still a way to educate, give the teachers tools pretty much, or ways to provide some type of arts and music enrichment, but it's not replacing, because I wouldn't want to see that happen because they're not certified teachers. It's a total different program.
Absolutely not. That's an integral component that we want to preserve. And also I just wanted to make a point that, there's been a lot of research that has gone into this, especially with large urban districts, Chicago Public Schools, Boston Public Schools, Houston. We've used a lot of different models to help us figure out how to think more creatively and do some of this work here in Hartford. And so that would never be the direction that we would want to go, is to replace a certified teacher. Nope.
And I'm excited about this program, about Hartford Performs, because I know that, for schools that do have art and, still have art and music teachers, there are students who look forward to that. They look forward to Hartford Performs, and it's also a great way to connect them to the community, or keep them connected to the community.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Board Member Tatum?
Yes, thank you. I share some of the concerns about the role of Hartford Performs in this evolving arts ecosystem in each school. And what I'm hearing is a kind of response based on a value of equity to the fact that there are teaching vacancies in the arts in some of our schools, and seeing a kind of downstream opportunity to have Hartford Performs fill that gap that exists. And I think that's a very admirable need to respond to. And I think that the Hartford Performs teaching artists in some ways are, fabulous candidates to fill that gap. I think, from what I know of these programs, and I know some of the artists who have participated in Hartford Performs in the past personally, and the value of this type of programming is tremendous, and the connections that can be made, aligned with some of those strategic goals that you mentioned earlier, especially the cultural relevance piece, are huge. You can't replace that quality of a learning experience. And I see as well that responding to fiscal challenges is one of the reasons for contracting here. And I think it's not the responsibility of Hartford Performs to address those teaching vacancies and the reasons for those vacancies, or staffing shortages entirely. Rather, it's the responsibility of the district and to figure out the more upstream interventions that would be necessary so that those inequities aren't happening in the system. And so I appreciate the wanting to shift to respond to this gap, and I share the concern that schools will come to rely on this programming to fill that gap, and those upstream interventions that would address the inequity to begin with would be less likely to be made, because it is being so well, our kids are getting good arts programming. And so I guess if I framed it as a question, and it is a question, how, and maybe it's not so much a question pursuant to this contract, but how, as Hartford Performs exists in this evolving ecosystem, and this challenging ecosystem that is under-resourced in a lot of ways. How does Hartford Performs fill that need, while also, making sure that those gaps aren't plugged in a way that makes us dependent on the programming in a way that we shouldn't be?
Yeah, I love how you framed that, Stephen, because it's exactly how Hartford Performs. Their board, their executive director, they have been very concerned about exactly what you're speaking to, because that's not at all why they were created, and it is not why they exist. And so we have worked really hard to bridge and to build our partnership so that they're seen as, and they're acting as, a true partner, that they are not a replacement. And that goes also alongside our arts teachers. We've worked really strategically and hard to be able to bring Hartford Performs into our unified arts professional learning spaces, and to work alongside our certified teachers so that we can create this arts ecosystem together. That's really what the crux of this is, so that it's not leaning and dependent on one particular area of it. It's really that we're all working together to serve our students in the best way we can. And so I hear you. I'm so appreciative that Hartford Performs is stepping up in this way to provide some direct arts instruction. That's what we're calling it. But with the caveat that this is support, this is a partnership, and that this will not be a replacement for what we know are quality teachers in our district.
Any other questions from the board members? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Tracy. That was very helpful, very informative. All of my questions that I had were answered during your presentation, so I do really appreciate the hard work that you guys put into the contract.
Thank you.
So we will be voting on this contract at our next meeting, which is July 16th. And if there are any follow-up questions, please be sure to reach out to Ms. Christina Santiago for additional information. So with that, we'll go on to the next contract.
The next contract is, did you change it, Christina? Yes, our CT Rise partnership. And before I tag the team in, just to give you a big picture, high level, and this is another partner that has been active and valuable for several years, actually starting first years ago at Hartford Public High School. And then there's been, the partnership has expanded across several of our schools. And when we think about the larger bucket of work, really it is in support of our efforts to continue to support the high school redesign work that we've done over the years, with a very specific focus on our grade 9 on-track achievement at Buckley, at our 3 comprehensive high schools, Buckley, Hartford High, Weaver, and also Kinsella. And if some of you might recall that we are really focused on making sure that our students graduate high school on time and ready. And one way to make sure that we do that is starting to put foundations in place when they first transition to high school and get to 9th grade. And so this partnership supports professional learning communities among our high school grade 9 leaders, with freshman academy teacher leaders integrated into what we call professional learning communities. You'll hear that phrase often, PLCs, on a monthly basis to deepen and extend their freshman success efforts. And so from not just the systems, the structures, the processes, the capacity building, but also leveraging on-track data meetings and data systems and tools. And so it is a systemic approach. And I'll tag the team in to talk about how it connects team to our strategic priorities for the year ahead, which our board got introduced to yesterday. And so if you can make the connection there, and also reference some of the impact data that we have seen as part of this partnership. Dr. Ratliff.
Yes, thank you. We will share some additional information about CT Rise. On the call, we have Ms. Liliana Cuevas, who serves as our Executive Director for College and Career Readiness, as well as Mr. Sam Purdy, who is representing CT Rise. If there are additional questions, I do want to note that in addition to what the superintendent has shared about the partnership and the successes we've seen with this partnership, we are seeking this year to take the strategies even more so to scale and broadening that impact across high schools, and even looking at pulling those monitoring systems internal so that we can strengthen the work that we are doing internally to have some of those same outstanding outcomes across all schools. If you'll go to the next slide, please, Christina. As mentioned, just like our previous contract proposal that was discussed, This contract with CT Rise is in direct alignment with our strategies for student success. When you hear about some of those strategies in the works with those professional learning communities, it clearly connects our students to school with that close monitoring and additional support of those ninth grade students, as well as the equitable access to high quality learning experience. A part of this ninth grade on track, it's actually determined by the number of credits that the ninth graders receive. So they must pass 6 classes in our district, 1 being English, 1 being math, in order to be on track. And as we all know, ninth grade on track determines a student's success in high school and beyond. For the next slide, if you'll proceed, please, Christina, I will turn it over to Ms. Liliana Cuevas and Sam Purdy to share some of the details around this work.
Thank you, Dr. Rowley. Good afternoon, board members, superintendent, and staff. Liliana Cuevas. So the Connecticut Rise Network mission is to ensure that all students graduate with a plan and the skills and confidence to achieve college and career success. The scope of the work with this partnership with Hartford Public School focuses on building capacity among grade 9 leaders and educators, strengthening data-informed collaboration in the Freshman Academy through coaching, cross-school professional learning, and access data to tools and resources. Christina, next slide, please. Here's some of the data and some of the work that's been happening for the past few years. I can start with the first-time grade 9 chronic absenteeism rates. So since the start of the district-wide grade 9 partnership with RISE, the 4 partnership high schools have collectively achieved a double-digit improvement in chronic absenteeism among the first-time freshman students. So as you can see, Buckley has 15.8 improvement, Hartford Public High School 8.6, Kinsella 37 point improvement, Weaver 12.9, and all schools, again, 12.8 improvement among the 4 high schools. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here's some of the improvement on the on-track data for the 23-24 school year. So from the middle to the end, so on the first track here, from the middle to the end of the year, the partnership school achieved an improvement of 8 points in the share of the first-time grade 9 students who were on track. So as you can see on the end, the year end of track rate for Buckley is 78%, which is the 21 points. Hartford Public High School, 50% with 8 points. Kinsella, 80% with 4 points. And Weaver, 70% with -1 point. And then the next data, the key point, all 3 of the 4 partnership high schools, over 85% of the first-time grade 9 students have earned 6+ credits, and that is meeting the CSD definition of grade 9 on track and indicator 7. And I think that's my last slide, right, Christina? Okay, some of the key elements of the RISE partnership for the 25 school year. Coaching, there's ongoing coaching with the Freshman Academy administrators to promote and strengthen our outcomes through our continued refinement of our on-track strategies. In terms of our data, we have access for the administrators and the grade 19 members to the RISE Hub, Data Hub. We also have our Freshman Academy convenings, which is our professional learning among our leaders in our Freshman Academy work, including our administrators, our school counselors, and teachers, leaders from participating schools. In terms of our sustainability and scale, is to build on our best practices, sustain areas in the impact while building our internal systems with our PLCs and our data hub to scale their strategies across all of our high schools. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, Liliana. That was great. I will, oh, did I see? I will start with Board Member Darrell Ledger, please.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the presentation. I have a question regarding students with special needs. How are you, I know that, in the beginning of the school year, it may take time if students don't already have an IEP to, perhaps to get identified. What are you doing with students or are you working with students who already have IEPs? And also students who may be kind of flagged and may need kind of like different kinds of services. How can you help them as well?
Well, all of our students get services, including our students with IEPs and our multilingual learners, students and our students with 504s. But there is a focus between, I think our school counselors, our social workers, our support staff, our teachers and administrators to, including in our monthly meetings, to address the concerns that we have about any of our students, whether they have an IEP or they're multilingual learners, an effort to address any concerns that we have, and reach out if we need to triage in terms of mental health support or any academic support that they might need.
So thank you so much. And the other question I have, so this is pretty much, it would be for college readiness or college, preparing them for college. I know it's to prepare them for graduation, but college preparedness as well?
Inclusive of that, it's really the work of ensuring that our ninth grade students stay on track to continue to move on to stay on track and become our 10th graders. And so that work is inclusive, not just of our post-secondary, right, but also to remain and stay on target to become 10th graders.
Okay.
Just to add, the primary aim of this is to ensure that those ninth graders become 10th graders the very first year they enter high school. And that does fold into, as Ms. Cuevas just mentioned, some planning after high school and all of that. That's part of keeping them engaged. But this specific work focuses on making sure that our ninth graders get out of ninth grade at that first bat, the first year they're in high school, because then they have a better tendency of success throughout their high school career.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Tatum.
Thank you very much again for this presentation. I have a couple of questions, and just process-wise, should I go through all my questions or should I say one and then wait till the next?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate the focus on the ninth grade, and I'm speaking as a former ninth grade English teacher, and understand the ways that ninth grade year and being on track at the end of that ninth grade year is a huge predictor of future path to success. So I think, like, strategically, this focus makes a lot of sense. I was not a teacher in one of the comprehensive high schools, though, and so this program is somewhat new to me. And I'm wondering if you could share, either briefly now or send to us, what the different indicators are of the on-track data. You mentioned the one being like accumulation of credits. 6 credits, I believe, is one of is indicator 7, but I'm curious what the other indicators are for that on-track data.
Sure.
I was gonna say, if Sam can respond, and Sam, if you can speak to, yes, the indicators, but also the role of the educator and building that capacity towards those indicators.
Yeah, definitely. So indicator 7, first of all, hello, everyone. And it's great to see those of you who are both returning board members, new board members, staff. I'm the director of engagement at RISE, and I've worked with the Hartford Partnership from the beginning. So yeah, it's a great question, and I'll try to be brief because you especially since you spoke about being a former, ninth grade English teacher, I think we might have lot to talk about, but so one, indicator 7 is part of the state accountability system, right? So that refers to the state's metric, which in Connecticut, given that our organization has also branched out beyond Connecticut, we have that perspective. It's really powerful that Connecticut says 9th grade on track is a state accountability metric. And so there is that, baseline of 6 credits that indicates on track status according to the state, right? Within Hartford, we present those, those slides that Ms. Cuevas presented showed both the CSDE on track, which shows Hartford high schools that we partner with at a, fairly high level of on track status, which is, quite positive. And then Hartford's own on track indicators, which are obviously aligned, but actually an even higher bar. So it's both passing the 6 credits, earning those 6 credits, but also that one of those be in English and one be in math. So that's where the state has a bit more of a blunt instrument, and the district, with an eye to its graduation requirements, is ensuring that students have the specific types of credits that they need. So we look at both, because a student passing 6 classes and earning 6 credits to promote on time actually aligns with national research as showing that they are likely to graduate on time. Obviously, in a district where they need certain credits to pass, that's really important to be looking at as well. We just don't want to be so binary and saying, oh, you didn't get 6 and a math and an English. There's really nuances of it. I think Superintendent Torres Rodriguez, you spoke about the teacher's role. And one thing that's really powerful in this partnership is that educators are looking at this data, who's on track, who's off track, who's almost on track, and whose attendance is on track, right? Another element of that, chronic absenteeism, both at a year-long level, on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis. How can we use data to help us unlock stories, to help us see what's actually going on for kids through conversations that we have with them, with stakeholders like their families, and of course the educators who know them well. So the official indicator was there on the slide, but a lot more goes into it. And through access to the RISE Data Hub, folks in these partnership schools are looking at that data really carefully and thinking about what it means for interventions.
I'm still wondering, is chronic absenteeism another one of the indicators of on track? What if the 6 credits is indicator 7, what's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Is there an 8?
Oh,
Well, Dr. Rattley, do you want to go ahead?
yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I had unmuted. Indicator 7, that has to do with the state's accountability model for high schools. So I apologize for that misunderstanding. Noting that on track, 9th grade on track, is a measure by which our high schools are measured by the state, and they happen to list it as number 7. So, but to put it into context, we'll be happy to pull that and share so that you can see the full scope of the high school accountability model. But that's the reason why it says number 7.
Okay, and maybe you, Sam, Sam, you mentioned the data hub, and I actually had a question about that as well. I admit to being somewhat skeptical of new systems for tracking data. But could you speak to what is really tracked in this data hub? And even just briefly, like, what are the different pieces of data that are being collected and looked at in these PLCs? Yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Okay, and team, I think I'll speak to that first. Does that sound right? Okay. So one important thing to note is that the data hub is primarily not, and I don't mean to be picking words, but it's not trying to track new data, right? This is in that it's actually bringing data that educators are already inputting, grades, attendance, behaviors, into a platform that hopefully is more user-friendly than the school student information system is. So the platform is enables a view of students on track status, their recent attendance, Also, some of those indicators that came up in the prior question around whether they have, whether they're special education, classify whether they are a multilingual learner, gender, race, ethnicity, so on and so forth, because it's important, right, to not just be looking at some of these top line numbers we provided, but for a teacher team, for example, to be considering, do we have a gap between our male and our female students in our own track status? And what problem of practice does that bring up if we do? Or between students who are of this race or ethnicity or the other, and so on and so forth. Those are conversations that teacher teams, the PLCs at the school level, have all the time, and explore the implications for individual students, for their practice at large, right, based on what they learn. I will add that there is the one kind of exception to what I said, if it's not tracking new data, is that there is a aspect of the tool that is post-secondary focused. So like Ms. Cuevas said, we are focused as well, not just on that 1 year of 9th grade, but post-secondary readiness. And through this contract and this relationship, the high schools have access to the post-secondary version of the tool, which is, includes post-secondary surveys that students complete, the data from which is uploaded, indicating the levels of completion that students are at of their own post-secondary pathways. So a student looking to go to a 2-year college, have they selected a program that they want to complete? Have they already, completed registration, and so on and so forth? Educators, are able to use that data to make decisions about students to meet with, programming to run in order to promote not just 9th grade success, but that ultimate goal, at least for the system, of graduation with a plan.
All right, thank you. My final question is about the administrators that participate in the coaching. I think I'm understanding correctly that these are the administrators who are primarily responsible for the implementation of these 9th grade academies in these schools. Is that correct? And that like this is like professional development for those administrators. I wonder, and I see in the contract that there's, that to me feels like the capacity building part where we want to have a self-sustaining model for this. And maybe this is anecdotal or not the right venue for this kind of question, but I wonder about like the alignment of the administrators who participate in this. Like, is this something that they have bought into to a point where they see like, yes, this work will sustain, we can do this ourselves, either in the future or at this point? Like what role do they see this partnership playing in their ability to implement the types of programs that they want to implement in their schools?
Sam, as you answer that, can you also reference the opportunity to inform and co-design some of the systems, processes, and procedures along the years? I know Mr. Tatum is asking about administrators, but I know there's been a lot of work also with teacher leaders. So if you can also speak to that.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll be even more brief now because I might need you to follow up in case I miss something, or Ms. Torres Rodriguez, if you can speak to things that I might miss. One is that we've been really pleased by the feedback from administrators that we've worked with. There has been some turnover over the years, right? So we've actually at certain schools had the chance to work with multiple administrators, and therefore seen the opportunity to sort of innovate a little bit and say, all right, here's what, for example, Weaver High School has been doing in the 9th grade academy. As a new leader, you have a chance to put your own stamp on it. Let's establish your own sort of coaching goals that align with these kind of conditions for success. So there, I would say, I'm not the sole person to speak to it, right? But there has been a great deal of buy-in among the administrators. And I think that while, feedback that we solicit as an organization to hear from the people we work with does indicate a great deal of value, I at the risk of, a risky thing to say is I do believe in the quality of our work, that if we didn't show up to a meeting, if we didn't, right, if we disappeared, the administrators we've been working with would say, I've got it, right? And so what we're trying to do is make sure that they don't find themselves in a position where they their jobs are, and as you know, right, their jobs are incredibly challenging, incredibly busy. The value of coaching is huge, so that you're not just able to get by. Oh yeah, we can run a meeting, but you're able to continuously improve. You're able to have someone to look at the data, and not just say, oh, where are we right now in that top line number, but whoa, wait, why is there that gap? We try to add some of that capacity, whether it's ourselves doing some of that work, building up the team at large, so they aren't just sort of executing on the structure, but constantly innovating and iterating. To the superintendent's comment, it has been not just administrators, but teacher leaders as well. I would add too, and I think Ms. Cuevas can speak to this in a sense, right? It's also counselors have been increasingly engaged, and have become, equal partners in the discussions at these tables with administrators, teacher leaders, and counselors, all saying, all right, what are we seeing in the data? What are we seeing on the ground in classrooms and in conversations with students? And therefore, how does our strategy need to evolve? So it really, that's a big belief of ours that it can't just be one role really taking this on.
Board Member Tatum, does that?
It does. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. Board Member Walker?
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have a few questions as well, so I'll try to be quick. One is CT Rise. So just so I get my head around this, you're working with 9th grade programs, but you're providing data analysis and coaching for the administrators and the staff. Is that your main deliverable? Sam, I'm trying to understand what exactly you're offering.
Sure thing. So not necessarily bring back up the slide, but when you reviewing that slide deck, if it's right there, is the, I don't remember exactly what number it was the one, there we are, right? So this is really, I think, the best way to represent it is ongoing coaching work, as you mentioned, with the school administrators, access to a data platform for the schools to take part. And that is school-wide, not just the 9th grade, but we've actually worked with like 10th grade, 11th grade folks, and obviously, as mentioned, with 12th grade. And then professional learning gatherings that focus on folks involved with the Freshman Academy. And not mentioned here, just because we only have this one slide here, right, to collaborate on, but also we're doing work with the 9R or the repeat 9th grade leaders, which is a other set of administrators, counselors, and in some cases, teacher leaders, though really different roles. In any case, that is another component of it. So yes, more or less, that's what's represented here.
Okay. And I guess now I have a couple questions I think may bounce between you and Chief Ratliff. So one is about the on track. I think my understanding from last year is that on track means that the student has a D or higher in those 6 classes.
So this measure, yes, sir, excuse me for interrupting. This measure of on track is in direct alignment with what the state measures in terms of high school accountability. And it is specific to 9th grade and the number of students who have passed their 6 courses, basically serving as a numerator, if you will, versus all students in the 9th grade. So this one is very explicit. It's different from measuring, as you are mentioning, our conversations from before in terms of students on track toward graduation, where we look at things a little bit differently and more grade levels. This specific metric is in direct alignment with what the state measures for high school in terms of 9th graders on track or graduate, or not graduate, I'm sorry, promoting from 9th grade in that first year.
Right. So I'm just going to nail this down, that when we're saying that if the state is saying they passed 6 classes, that their definition is they passed 6 classes with a D or higher. Is that, I just want to make sure that's what we're understanding is being on track, even from the state standpoint, right? Is that correct?
Yes, I would have to look at the language. I don't remember seeing the letter grade, but I do remember seeing credit attainment, which essentially is, yes, if they pass the course, they gain the credit, so that it, it's written more generally in the state language, just because it could change from LEA to LEA. But yes, credit attainment, which is passing, yes.
Okay, I want to capture that because now right now at the district, we are rolling out some 9th grade academies within the district. Is that correct as well? Am I missing that?
We've had the 9th grade academies in our comprehensive high schools, and
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I'm only asking if it feels like the 9th grade academy should have the exact focus that CT Rise is doing. It almost feels somewhat duplicative to what CT Rise is doing. I'm not saying they have the experience and expertise, but my hope would be everything that CT Rise is providing is exactly what I would hope for a 9th grade academy would, with a targeted focus on all the needs of 9th graders. The reason I put the D too, because right now what I saw in this report is the movement, the improvement that was shown in my mind is saying, okay, at some point after S1, there were a series of students who had an actual F on their transcript or on their grade report, they had an F. And somehow through these activities, we moved these kids from an F to at least a D. Hopefully they went higher than that. Is that the way that I should be reading went from 50 to 78 or 62 to 76 in terms of, is that how I should be reading this? In terms of the impact? Sam's nodding his head, so I'm assuming that's the case.
I think you're referencing slide 7 that shows kind of a mid-year checkpoint of how many of our students are on track and passing those 6 classes as of the semester end, first semester, with a comparison of how many passed. Right.
So I just want to know what I'm reading. If I look at Buckley, then what I'm seeing is go back to that. After S1, 57% of the participants had D or better, which in my mind meant that potentially, 43 had at least 1 F. And now by the end of the year, 78% of the folks had D or better. And obviously the other participants maybe did not. So what I'm saying is the only way I felt like we went from 57 to 78 is some person who had a F after S1 improved to a D or better by that year in on track rate, correct?
Right. Yeah. And it would be, just to be real precise, it would be that they could have had 0 classes, right? So
right.
Be not on track is really broad. But
okay.
Yes, it means that they weren't passing 6 classes, including a math and English, at the midpoint, and they were by the end of the year, right?
Okay. So I'm only with that discussion because I want to raise up, I think, to Chief Rattley and then the superintendent too. My dream has always been that somehow on track in my head is students having C or better. That would be the Tyrone Walker dream of what on track means. Now it appears to supersede the state requirement. So far be it from us to, exceed the state, but it sounds like we already have a few requirements like the ELA and the math requirement. So I'm just elevating that maybe as a discussion point, if there's some way we can data mine the data to really see if there's information we can get from that too. Because maybe that 78% has a lot of kids with C or more, and it's not just D and you know, we hope they make it to graduation. I'm just saying it here in this forum because I was a little surprised when I first heard about it. I thought success was a little higher, but at least you're saying, Chief Riley, that this is what the state is saying represents at least on track.
Yes.
Okay. So can I ask then, just for, you know, for us internally, is there a way to further mine this to get a sense of how many kids are C or better, even if we don't report it publicly, just for us to get a sense of, I'm asking because at some level, the other thing I want to look at is, where do we have the target of risk? Is there a risk beyond just repeating ninth grade? Are there some people who we say repeat past ninth grade, but we may indicate, maybe they're a little bit at risk even though they passed ninth grade?
We can have that conversation internally, Mr. Walker, in our one of our data dives that we do at the system office, and also to remind the board that one of our board workshops is going to be focused on not just on track, but all of the entire accountability metrics system.
All right, I'll stop there because I definitely agree with you, Superintendent. This is an offline thing. I just didn't want to go year for year and not raise that. The D thing feels to me a little risky, but I understand it's
Very fair.
compliance.
Thank you.
Yep.
Board Member Darrell Ledger.
Yes, thank you. I have two questions. So the first question is, what we're doing is aligned with the state requirements, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the next question I have is, it's possible or highly likely that if a student perhaps is failing, perhaps in the middle of the year or at some point in the year, that they are given an opportunity to either make up the work, or, you know, there may be a reason. So for example, in Power School, if, you know, they have a certain grade that's failing, it may be because the student has not turned in a certain assignment or assignments, where once they submit those assignments, then the grade will change. Is that likely?
That it is likely. I will say that the work that CT Rise does is to support exactly what you are talking about, progress monitoring students throughout the year. So we don't wait until the end to say, uh-oh, this many didn't make it. But to your point, if there's a reason, or if they are not performing up to speed throughout the year at those checkpoints that Sam talked about, the teams are actually discussing what might that problem be and how might we be able to provide interventions for those students so that they can be successful by the time the course ends.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, Superintendent, I had one quick question for you. I believe this looks like it's funded with ESSER funds for us newer board members. Can you just remind us a little bit of how long you have to spend the ESSER funds, and just a quick 30-second update on the ESSER funds?
Yes, the ESSER fund, also known as pandemic relief funding, that we've had for 3 years, does come to an end. And so this is the last time, if you will, that we have this money that is available for this specific contract for this year. And so we will have to do a step back to think about what the implications are moving forward, which is why we're really focusing on capacity building, right? And how can we scale back while also build capacity and muscle internally as well. So yes, those funds are done this first quarter of the year.
Thanks. So as a reminder, this contract will come before the board for a vote on Tuesday. And if you have any further questions, please reach out to Ms. Christina Santiago and we will get answers back as soon as possible. I'd like to thank all superintendent and the staff and our partners that came today to present to us. These were incredibly useful presentations, and I really personally appreciated the PowerPoint presentations. I thought they were very informative. So thank you so much for doing that. And unless there are any other questions before we leave, seeing none, I believe that concludes